Hi, I'm so happy you reached out. Thank you. A big part of the classes is that I can't help everybody with like all this in-depth research. So reaching out and doing little videos like this is really where the fun begins. So there's like 100 million things, right? So we look for things with keywords. What are some strategies? What are some recommended databases, et cetera, et cetera? You're in luck. I have a guide for it. So we know we can look for stuff here. And it's kind of a good catch-all. We can do stuff out on the open web. So we can ask, like, what are significant moments in, like, civil rights of immigrants? There'll be, like, test cases and things like that that you can track down. There's databases, which I'll show you. Well, you know, you can go to, like, and you can get Hein Online, which is a legal database, which I'll show you in just a second here. But I have a list of all of these. So if you go to Research Guides, make sure you're logged into CIS, or if you're logged in here first, because these will connect to databases. Type in the word criminology, which I did earlier, and I couldn't find it because I spelled it criminology. So you have to spell it correctly. And then you'll get this guide, which I have in the body of the email that I've sent to you. Okay, so when you're looking for things like this, there are, across the social sciences, evidence of legal and precedents and test cases and events and happenings and things like that all across the literature. So hopefully a good marker you can count on is that if you're doing research on something, you'll start to bump into the same rhetoric or ideas or narrative over and over again. Currently I'm having an issue and I don't have access to edit this guide. So I have some recommended databases, but I also have 3 more that aren't on this guide. So I'll send those in the links too. And all you do is go to the database name like I did with the Hein Online. I did this for a class too. So if you want some, if you can't get enough of my videos, there's some like probably painfully long videos for another sociology class. But let's let's not watch those. Oh, here's a cool thing. I have some preloaded keyword sets. So if you click on any of those, they're already preloaded for the catalog. So we could go in here and do immigrant. And all of a sudden you're going to get like 2,000 results. If you go to peer-reviewed, they're still going to cite population studies like sociology, demographics, but they'll also look at the judicial and things like that. Isn't that cool? So let's see, immigrant, we want to do healthcare. So instead of racism, let's do healthcare. Let's just say healthcare. Immigrant, we can promote that up to like the title, so we don't get stuff that's random. And let's see what we get. So this is the big keyword right here. So immigrant and healthcare, there's going to be a ton of stuff, because in the United States, if you have a broken leg and you go into a hospital and you're unconscious or something like that, they'll treat you first if it's an emergency. That's kind of like a policy. If you can't pay for it afterwards, or if your citizen status is not documented or something like that, that happens after the fact. So if you wanted to just look at those things. Note that there's some books introduce bias. So we want to go to the peer-reviewed journals. There we go. Look at that. Healthcare subsidies, maternal and child health, immigrant detainees. Be careful that this has been debated for a long time. So some of these might be, whoa, that one's from like this month? That doesn't happen all the time. So you might find some older stuff. There's 2020, 2018. So beware. Depending on who the president is right now is like this critical moment of like things being rescinded or kept or something like that. Here's another keyword, immigrant rights. You could go and add that. Immigrant rights. So every time you want to add something, there's a good keyword set to work with. And you'll start to get some overlapping stuff, like I said before. These are the things that you would dig through to see, is there precedence and things like that. And this is where you could also say immigrant access to state healthcare subsidies. Oh, there's, but let's see if we go to Google Gemini. Please give me academic library keywords in the form of precedents and influential politicians on the topic of immigrant access to state healthcare subsidies. That's a really loaded question, but AI can really handle it really well. And, oh, it's like telling me how to search. Oh, no, here we go. Personal Responsibility and Work Opportunity Reconciliation Act. Cool. Cory Booker, Gavin Newsom. Isn't this cool? So then you can go in and you can fill out those searches as you go. So let's take the keywords that we used. Long-term immigrant. Let's ask keywords and synonyms for long-term immigrant. I'm guessing that might be things like work visa. Well, let's see if there's an official federal term. No. Ooh, established immigrants. Let's try that one. There's a whole bunch of them. Duration of stay, lawful permanent residents, integrated immigrants. Oof. So let's do established immigrants. So let's try a different database. So you can use any of these keywords just to start out with, but you can take them into specific databases. Criminal justice looks a lot at like prevention and policies and things like that, where they're not necessarily, in my opinion, looking for the social good or bad. They're just looking at like court cases and stuff like that. So let's just put in established immigrants. In, let's say the abstract this time, in the last 3 years. Let's look, last 3 years. We want peer reviewed. Nothing. So this is where you might want to try different keywords. Immigrant, and I'm going to do healthcare again. So that long-term immigrants, the language that they use might be hard to find. Fear is a group emotion. That's sociological. IPV, surveillance, and in this one it's peer-reviewed. So if we want the legal stuff, criminology databases are going to be talking about that, but they're also going to talk about like state policies for addressing crimes or populations, and there's like all sorts of different things going on. Criminal justice database, it's okay. Criminology collection, that one's a little better. They're both from the same place though. Sociological abstracts rocks because it's looking at society as a whole. So this is where you might have movements that are talking about greater civil rights for immigrants, immigrant populations. So instead of just the legalities of things like this is going to be like movements, maybe non-government organizations and things like that. So I try that one. 2, PAIS is public policy. But here's a fun one that we can try. Let's try. This is a list of databases that I know now I'm referring to the ones that are not on the list. Or not on this, and now I'm sending it in the email. One that's the darling of communication and rhetoric studies is Nexus Uni, because you get a lot of the rhetoric and debate of judges, officers, and policymakers and things like that. Used to be called LexisNexis. I'm going to do, immigrant seems to be a pretty solid keyword. Because it's a status. It's the declaration of the name of a population that's studied. I think we're pretty good with that one. I don't think we have to do immigrants, plural. But then we put an and. And let's, oh, look at that, immigrants' rights. Wow, look at all that stuff that's in there. That's cool, a little overwhelming. Let's do health care. Oh, and we have environmental health. You could do environmental health too, just put that in quotes. But let's try immigrant and healthcare. Or maybe we should do immigrants and healthcare. I don't know. All available dates. Let's do the past 5 years. In content types, this database is frankly not great. So the content types on this side are not as expansive as they are on the results side. So don't touch that one. So when you move to this side, how many results did we get? Usually it tells me. I'm not seeing it. That's weird. Because if it's over 10,000 results, it'll be just like, it'll say to narrow it down. Here's what you can do. You can go into, click on this more, and this is where you find all the stuff where people are arguing, depositions, court cases, maybe sometimes debate in legislators, so administrative codes, regulations, law reviews. This is where people give an opinion on whether something was constitutional or not. Briefs, pleadings, motions. Oh, here we got the 10,000 plus. So on this one, you might be more specific, or you could be, and type in, let's go ultra narrow and go down to Salt Lake City. This is not, so there's the Deseret News. So there's newspapers in here too. This is not scholarly articles. These are like the rhetoric, the recorded rhetoric of practices and debate and things like that going on. But still, check it out. There's like 3,000. Let's go to briefs, pleadings. No, let's do law reviews. This database I should have had on the guide. Look at that. But again, got to be careful. Some of these are old. And I said it was the last 5 years. Did I lose that in the search? So I don't know the credibility of this, but it can give you rhetoric and case study examples that you could then use to go back into the literature. So for example, undocumented immigrants. I don't know if that's a phrase that's used these days. It seems to have been boiled down to immigrant, so the othering rhetoric. Documented immigrant and healthcare and Salt Lake City. So, hey, the Utah welcome receipt. Oh, that's a cool. There's this. I love the Deseret News. I have to confess. They have to. They feel like they might be representing like the right side, but they're the most evenly balanced news source that I found in the last year. That's reasonable to read because they play both sides of the evidence and they let the reader decide. So my commentary, as an aside, here's a timeline where we can come up. Let's come up to 2022. Let's see if we can find something going on. I suppose you could put the ICE acronym in there too. Statutes and legislation. Ooh, oh, Constitution of the United States Amendment. I wonder if that's something that did not go through. Congressional record. This is a record of like debates and things like that. The congressional record is notoriously fluffy and omitted or modified. I wouldn't go off of that. If you need to know, we have a GovDocs librarian. Speaking of GovDocs, if you go to Google Gemini, you can say, what are bills being discussed in the Utah legislature presently? And there are places, some of them are like watchdog groups, but some of them are places where you can look up the things going on right now. Here we go. Legiscan, utah.gov. So these are places, oh, there we go, bill tracker. So a lot of these things are going to be out on the particular government's website because they want this to be a democratic process. which I think is pretty cool. You can see what's going on. Last thing that I wanted to touch on is there's a database that I've never gotten along with. It's called Hein Online. This is the one that I started out with, but this is a history database. Hein Online. The database format is kind of old, and the search is kind of clunky. But let's do that same search. We'll just try narrowing it down to Utah. This might be more national-based stuff. I think it might choke on that. But there's like all these things that you can narrow down to. That's pretty cool. Let's just go for it. Let's see what we get. The reason that I say that it's clunky is some of these are like really old documents. And it's written in that like all caps legalese sort of a thing. So I'd recommend having a cup of coffee beforehand. These are all repeated and referred to and cross-referenced across all the databases that you go through. So if you find the name of an act, if you find the name of a legislator, if you find the name of a non-government organization that's lobbying for something, typically you'll find everything else. Okay, I think... All right, I'm looking at your note. These are good places to start, but go with patience and dig around and see if you find something that resonates with you. Let me know how it goes, because this is kind of like jumping in the deep end. And if you need any clarifying questions or if you want other resources, let me know.